Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour podcast. I am Kyle Anthony, your host for today. We are talking UFC Vegas 107, headlined by Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber. We're going to be breaking down 4 plays here on the show today. Now, last weekend, we were off. It was Memorial Day weekend. It was nice to get outside. It was nice to see the sun a little bit, and it's a nice kickoff to the summer overall. And also really excited about the next couple of weeks, next couple of months that are going to be going on in the UFC. Some fantastic cards overall, especially next weekend. Love that card from a betting perspective. We will dive into that next weekend. But with that being said, if you want to become a client, link down in the description. Already have some plays up for clients, and we're looking forward to seeing this pan out overall. So let's dive into the main event of the evening between Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber. Now, you've got Erin Blanchfield sitting around minus 245 on the comeback here. You've got Barber plus 200. Now, when you look at this fight here, got 2 females, 2 young rising talents within the division here. You've got 27 years old, 26 years old, and you know what you're getting with both of them. And the one thing that you're getting with Blanchfield is her wrestling. And that really is her bread and butter. She's able to go out there. She wants to push that pace, wants to get her hands on you, wants to get that control time, win positionally. And, she has increased her output. What I do think is something that was needed for her, when she's cutting distance, to really have that striking output. But with that being said, the one thing that, going back and watching tape, also looking at some of these stats and really diving into everything, Blanchfield's known for her wrestling, but she hasn't found that much success with her wrestling. She's getting some wins and credit to her on that, but, the wrestling really hasn't, I think, really shown the skill level that she has. I'm just not seeing it. And if you go back, she had a couple takedowns against Rose Namajunas. She was 2 for 8 on takedowns against Rose with like 8 minutes of control time. Great showing for her there, but Rose is someone who just doesn't have physicality, doesn't have strength, can be bullied around. She's got great boxing, great footwork, but the wrestling part of it, I think, really is a vulnerability of her, and credit to Blanchfield going out there and finding that success. Now, you kind of go back a little bit deeper there, and you also look at the fact that over Blanchfield's last 6 UFC fights, she has 4 takedowns. And that already is not a good stat, but then you look at the fact that she has shot 33 takedowns over that span and only landed 4. That is bad. If that's really primarily your main path is wrestling, getting takedowns, using your grappling. And then you also look at even further is the fact that, Rose, she got 2 takedowns. Prior to that fight against Rose, the last time that she had 2 or more takedowns was back in 2021 against a friend of her show, Miranda Maverick, in 2021. And she got multiple takedowns, really kind of, I think, surprised Miranda, and she was able to find success and credit to her there. But again, you're not seeing a lot of it. Now, I do think that one thing that can work for her here on the Barber side is her strength, is her physicality. I think she's going to have those advantages here, and I think that's going to help her in this spot. Now, not a great look overall when you're getting taken down multiple times by Andrea Lee. It's a little bad, but I think she's young. That was years ago. I think she's going to continually get better and continue to improve that. Now, also, I do think that Maycee does have a decent get-up game. She's got a decent scrambling ability. She can work back to her feet. I think that, she has the strength to kind of work back to her feet, get back up. And I think that's how this is going to kind of play out. Now, if this does play out on the feet, I do favor Maycee a lot. I think that she's got the better combinations. She's a more technical striker between these two. She's a harder hitter between these two as well. And I do think her aggressive style coming forward and really mark both these girls, both females like to march forward and just throw shots. But I do think that the more impactful shots are going to come from Maycee. I think she's going to land a lot of the bigger shots here. And I think this is really a dog or pass kind of spot. I think that Blanchfield is the rightful favorite, but I think this line is very wide here. I think at plus 200, I really like Maycee at this number. So I'm going Maycee Barber plus 200 in the main event. Next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Alan Nascimento minus 155 against Filho plus 130. Now, this one here is interesting. Line open minus 120 for Nascimento. And now we have seen money has kind of come in here where you're even seeing some minus 160s, minus 165s, kind of out there now as this line continually gets bet here. Now, I get it. You've got Nascimento. He's a high-level jiu-jitsu guy. He can go out there, he can look for those takedowns. He's going to find the control time. He's going to be very opportunistic, with his submission game. And there are those things that he does have. And if this fight goes to the ground, I think it's be very interesting to see how both these guys, who are both solid grapplers, how that plays out. But I think some of the issues here and the red flags are really all on the Nascimento side. And I think that really makes this line not look right in this spot here. And the first thing being, and I think anyone who talks about this fight is going to talk about it, is the inactivity. And that is just, to me, a massive red flag here. The guy hasn't fought since January 14th of 2023. You're looking at, 2.5 years of not fighting. That is a big issue when you're first looking at that. And again, ring rust is real. We know that's, getting your timing down. How many fighters have we talked to, or I've talked to, or you've heard, in interviews? It is an absolute real thing. And that, I think, is very concerning here, especially at this price tag. Now, since 2023 and now to this fight, he has pulled out 3 times, and that, again, bad. It's just, it's hard to really understand what's going on. Is it injuries? Is it this? Is it that? What it is. Either way you look at it, the guy has spent years and pulling out of fights time after time again. And I think that is also an issue. Now you also look at the fact, that Nascimento, another red flag here, is that Nascimento is 2-2 in the UFC. And, hey, he came in, lost 2 fights, came back and won 2 fights. But his debut was back in 2018. I mean, so this guy has basically been in the UFC for 7 years and has 4 fights. That's, again, another red flag here. Is the guy staying healthy? What is going on out there? That is just a massive concern when you're looking at it. Now, his 2 wins, he's got a win against Jake Hadley, who was no longer in the UFC. And even in that fight, he got some takedowns, control time, but Nascimento landed 19 significant strikes over 3 rounds. I mean, not just... the activity is just not there. Then you look at his other win against Carlos Hernandez, which, I guess we all realize now, Carlos Hernandez, or maybe you've realized already, Carlos Hernandez is not UFC caliber here. He's now 2-4 out of his last 6, looked terrible, got subbed up, end of story there on the Carlos Hernandez fight. But Nascimento, you add in all these things, you add in, layoff, you add in, possible issues outside of the cage, all of these things. Now you got to add in the low volume. And that, to me, is, again, another issue here that he has shown time and time again. When you look at it, Nascimento here, he is just a guy that just does not push that type of pace. He's a guy that really, when he gets control, he's looking to really win positionally, sometimes look for the sub, but he's not really just, hammering out ground and pound, really work, he's more just wet blanketing than he's doing anything else. And then if you can hunt for the submission, he will. If not, okay. And you got Filho, who, is very scrappy. He's going to push a pace. He's going to get on him. He's going to be very aggressive. He's going to throw shots. I think he's the better striker between these two. He's been very active. He's also 3-1 in the UFC. His only loss is coming against Mahad Makayev, which was about as close as it gets to a submission victory that it gets to, where he had him locked up. And Makayev doesn't tap, he gets out of it, and he ends up finding the victory. Credit to Makayev there. But again, it's, that's the kind of fight at least we're seeing from him. And I do think that we are seeing good ability from Filho here. So I'm going to go Jafel here. I think it's worth the price, especially we're talking about a nice plus 130. I think that it should be flipped a little bit. I have Jafel as the favorite here, a slight favorite. So in this spot here, Jafel Filho plus 130 to get the job done. Next one here we're going to talk about is Macy Chiasson versus Katlyn Vieira. And this one here, about a pick 'em price tag when we're looking at it here. And this is a spot where years ago, I was pretty big. No, maybe I should take that back. I was fairly high on Katlyn. She came into the UFC, had 4 straight victories, looked good, looked like she was strong, looked like she had, some physical strength, some decent striking. And, there was a point I was jokingly calling her, baby Amanda Nunes, because she kind of was a little similar in certain spots. Now, don't kill me on that comment, but she's nowhere near Amanda Nunes. But in general, when she came in, that was kind of a joke that I was kind of saying there about her, that I do think she had ability. And then she fights Irene Aldana and gets absolutely smoked in the first round, knocked out. And since that loss, I think she is completely just whether she's second guessing herself or whatever it is, she has really, I think, looked worse over the last few fights, especially since that knockout. She's 4-4. And even in that run, she has had some suspect wins overall. I mean, she goes out there and beats, two aged out females in Misha Tate and Holly Holm in the situations where hold on. Situations where she was holding Holly up against the fence, nothing exciting, just trying to win positionally, cage pushing, holding her there. And that was kind of what she did to get these victories. And it wasn't that impressive. And plus, you look at the fact that both of those fights, she was outstruck. And she ended up getting the victory, very razor thin close victories, but gets them. And you even go a little further and look at the fact that her 4 wins, each one of those, she was outstruck. Now, one of them was like 1 or 2 strikes that she was outstruck. Yes, she had some takedowns in there, which gave her the victory, but just not the greatest look. Not really showing, much athleticism. The striking, I don't think, is very good. There's a lot of things I think that are issues for her here, and you're seeing it pretty clearly. And then now you got Macy here. She's 5-2 out of her last 7. And I think she's looked pretty good, goes out there. Her 2 losses were against Aldana and against, who is it? Pennington. Now, both of those, she actually, I thought, was having a pretty good account of herself where you had against Aldana. She was, I think, beating Aldana. She looked pretty good, landing some good shots, getting the control time she needed. And then late in that fight there, when Aldana is on her back, she throws an up kick to the liver, whatever it was, and puts out Macy, and that was the end of that. And then even the other fight here against Raquel Pennington, she goes out there and wins the first round, looked pretty good, and then gets subbed up in the second round. So I think at least she's showing a good account of herself overall. She's showing good skill set. And you look at stylistically, I think that Macy is better pretty much everywhere in this spot here. I think that Catlin, the big issue for her is the fact that she's very slow, very plodding. Her combinations come off very slow. She just, a lot of that stuff that just, you don't really see much explosiveness. Now, I'm not saying that Macy is this elite level striker, but I think that she can use her 4-inch reach advantage. I think she's going to have some physicality that's going to be able to match Catlin. And I think also the fact that she's going to be able to look for her own takedowns. I think that you could see Macy looking for takedowns, looking for control time, and looking to find opportunities there. And I think that the bad footwork of Vieira, I think that, the loopy hooks that she throws here, I think you're going to have Macy, who has that 4-inch reach advantage, going to be throwing straight shots down the pipe. I think are going to be landing very well. I think going to be finding a lot of success. And I just really don't see much from Catlin at this point here. I think that Macy, this is her spot. I like the price, especially here too, at a pick 'em here. So I'm going Macy Chiasson to get the job done at -115. And the last one here we're going to talk about is going to be Billy Ray Goff. He is -350 on the comeback. Here we got Ramiz Brahimaj +275. Now, I'm not going to dive too deep into this one here, but this line's wide. This line's definitely wide. Any way you look at it, I think that Billy Ray should be the favorite here. I think he should be, but I think there's going to be a better angle here that we can look to place our money. Now, Brahimaj, we know we're getting from this guy. He's a round 1 or bust kind of guy here. Out of his 11 victories, 10 are in the first round. The other one is in the second round here. So this is a guy that doesn't really, quick work. He's looking to do it in that first round. And then also you kind of look at the fact that he just, not only that, but man, he has not even really just seen the second round. He's only been in the second, above the second round, I should say, 3 times in his professional career. And I think that's where you start to see this is a guy that has terrible cardio, that just can't really rely on much, that if he can look and get you down, he's going to be elite when it comes to the grappling. He definitely has some of that ability here, but he's got this high-level jiu-jitsu, but he's got not very good wrestling. And I think that is really been the issue for him here, where he can't really bring the fight where he wants to bring it. He really needs his opponent to kind of do that for him or make a mistake. That's where he can find some success there. Now, yes, Brahimaj did knock out Mickey Gall, but that's Mickey Gall. But I do think that, you also got to add in that the negative striking differential that Brahimaj has. He's a guy that gets hit a lot more than he lands. And I think a guy like Billy, who does have some good power in his hands, he can look to move forward. He's going to look to push the pace a little bit. He's well-rounded. I think that even if this fight gets to the ground, he's going to find opportunities to get back to his feet or at least stay safe. But again, this is a spot where the longer this fight goes, the less likelihood that Brahimaj is going to have ability here. And I think outside of the first few minutes of that first round, I think Billy is going to start to chip away, start to land the shots. You're going to see Brahimaj start to slow down a little bit. That's where I think that you're going to see Goff find the success here. So getting off the minus 350 number, I do like Billy Ray Goff inside the distance is sitting around plus 100. I like that spot. I don't think we're going to see Brahimaj make it to the bell here. So I like that plus number off of the minus 350. So I'm going Billy Ray Goff inside the distance plus 100. So there you have it for my plays for UFC Vegas 107. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. Again, we got a massive card next weekend. Looking forward to it. But first, let's cash this weekend. I'll see you next week. Let's cash.